Hello everybody, my name is CulBlu and I'm bringing out this video of me playing a board game, and today we're going to be talking about the board game Rolling Heights. I'm going to just kind of give my general review, post-solo playthrough, all this other fun stuff. As you can see here, this is the chaos of the game, and unfortunately you had the bad angle, but this looks really cool looking at straight up. But this game, Rolling Heights, is a city building game that also has a solo mode. Oh, also, sorry, let me start the music before I forget. All right, there we go. It's a city building game to where you are essentially drafting these pieces. You're not drafting, but you're gathering these pieces here. You're buying them from here. You're putting them on the board. You're putting the resources down. And you're building the buildings. Once again, unfortunately, there's not a good angle that you all have because of the top-down view of the camera. I could have adjusted it, but I didn't want to clean my room, so unfortunately, you just have to deal with that. But at the very least, there's a lot of fun to be had in this game. There's a certain score. If you want to watch my playthrough, feel free to watch it. It's about 2 hours. I felt it was fun. I also did a video on how to play that's covered most of the rules, not all the rules, but most of the rules that'll get you started if you want to play solo yourself if you have this game, or at least get a feel for what the solo rules are. But at any rate, the way this game works is essentially you're building out your city. You're building out the city, so you're kind of competitively building out the city. And the interesting mechanic, the claim to fame for mechanic in this game is you essentially have a handful of meeples. And you can build these meeples as you build buildings. As you build buildings, you'll unlock meeples and you'll roll them, which is a novelty in itself. And depending on how the meeple lands determines what you'll actually get. So using this meeple, assuming that this is what the meeple or what the ground looks like. So this is what it normally looks like so. But let's go ahead and just rotate it like that. Actually, let me get a meeple that stands out a little bit better. So let's assume that this is the meeple. Oh, shoot. This is the floor, and this is a little bit hard to do. This is the floor here, and this is the meeple. So if the meeple, or when you roll the meeple, if the meeple lands flat like so, as in they're not standing up, they're considered tired. Your workers that they're considered tired, and they give you nothing. If the meeple is on is standing like so, so the meeple is standing up like so, they're considered hardworking or working hard, and that allows you to get kind of a better benefit. And then finally, if they land on their side, either like this, or kind of sitting on their head like so, then they're considered partially working. So they're going to give you lesser of a resource, but a resource nonetheless. So using a more simple meeple to use as a comparison, here's the construction worker. And the way the construction worker works is that if he's standing like so, or if the construction worker is standing like so, they'll give you 2 of the construction resource, which is this resource here. They'll give you 2 of these to use for your buildings. If the construction worker is on its side instead, or on its head like so, once again a little bit difficult to see because of contrast, then you'll get 1 of that resource, and then if they're laying flat, you get nothing. So that's kind of the basic mechanic that you're playing around with. And the way it works too is that because you're rolling meeples, when you roll the meeples, as you can see here, I've rolled 1 meeple on its side. You're rolling until you get at least half of your meeples working. Either they're standing or they're on their side. And there's no penalty for rolling until you get to that. Now, once you get half of your meeples or more standing, then you can choose to push your luck and roll again to kind of, get more people to stand up and work and roll by rolling. So let's go ahead and play it out. So I have 1 meeple standing so far out of my 4. So I'm not at half working yet. I roll again and nobody's standing, so it's still flat. So I'm roll again. And then I roll. Okay, cool. We finally have a meeple. This meeple's actually standing now, so that's pretty cool. And these 2 are still flat. Now at this time, I have a decision to make. I can either claim my resources, which in this case is going to give me 2, because this meeple's standing up on their feet. It's going to give me 2 of the wood resource. And this meeple who is a construction worker, or the concrete worker, is going to give me 1 concrete. I can either claim that now or push my luck. If I push my luck and I roll, and I end up with something like this to where 1 meeple standing, or some meeples are at least 1 meeple standing, then nothing happens. I get the resource. So in this case, this is a concrete worker, they're standing, so I'll get 2 additional concrete, which is nice. And then I can keep rolling, pushing my luck. If I roll and this happens to where all of the meeples that I just rolled again after pushing my luck are flat, then the workers go on strike or I bust. When they go on strike, what happens is I lose half of the meeples that were standing rounded down, and then I have to take that resource. In this case, I would probably choose, or likely choose, to lose half, which in this case just 1 out of 3, because there's 3 divided by 2, 1.5, round it down, so 1. A little bit of math involved, my apologies. So I'll probably just lose that meeple and that resource that I've gotten, and then I'll be stuck with this. As a consolation, when you bust, you also get a wild resource, which is this here, and that can be used as any other resource. So essentially, I virtually traded 1 resource for a wild. So that in the early game is pretty nice. Now, the caveat to all that is that when you get to the late game, the later game where you have a handful of meeples doing all kinds of different things that give you all kinds of different powers, which you roll 10 at a time, but we're just going to pretend for a second that you've rolled a bunch of meeples. Actually, let's go and play it through since we're talking about it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You always roll 10 at a time. So let's assume that I have these meeples left to roll. I have these meeples to roll initially. I roll, I get my stuff standing. Essentially, if I have a good number of meeples standing already, and then I roll and I bust, or the work is going strike, and I have to lose half rounded down, that could be devastating. Getting 1 wild resource at the end of the game when you have, let's say you have 7 standing meeples and then 4 that are laying on their side, you want to push your luck, you busted on that, then you're forced to lose 3 of those standing meeples and you get 1 wild resource. That could be devastating. So it's one of those games that has like a really nice balance between what you're trying to do mechanically and then what it's trying to allow you to do, what it lets you do. There's a lot of push your luck elements to it, and it's very weird rolling meeples, like I'm not gonna lie about that. But it works. It works and it's very fun. So that's one of the claims to fame of this game. Also, as I mentioned before, this game looks really cool across the table. It has a really nice table presence, and mechanically speaking, it's also very fun. Buildings, when you build them, they'll give you resources. So for instance, whenever I built this Gable Gates neighborhood, or this Gable Gates housing area, it gave me either a glass worker or it gave me a politician. So it gave me a glassworker politician, and the glassworker gives me 2 of the glass resources I need to build buildings, or the politician will give me up to 2 victory points. So if the glassworker is standing when I roll, they'll give me 2 glass. If they're on their side when I roll, they'll give me 1 glass. The politician, if they're standing, they'll give me 2 victory points. If they're on their side when I roll, they'll give me 1 victory point whenever I claim them and cash them in. So the buildings give you different resources as you go along, and you're looking along this track. There's a level 1 side, there's a level 2 side. The level 1s are a little bit cheaper when you purchase them, and they're usually a little bit less powerful. The level 2s are definitely more expensive when you purchase them, and then they usually give you some bigger benefit, but they're usually more expensive to build. So there's a whole bunch going on. I'm not going to go into like the full explanation of the rules, but I want to explain that mechanic first because that was one of my favorite things about this game. It's just like kind of the tactile feel of rolling meeples, and you get that little risk of pushing your luck, and sometimes you're like, oh man, I really need that 1 resource. Maybe if I roll, it'll pay off, and then it doesn't pay off and it just blows up in your face. It just, good time happen, good times roll. And then there's also the strategy of it too, of what do you build and when do you build and where do you build it. So the building placement, I didn't talk about this in my how to play. I talked about it in my playthrough. So if you did watch the how to play and you skip straight to the review, my apologies, I skipped the rule. But when you place your building, you must place it adjacent to one of your existing buildings. And if you want to place it further than that, then you must pay a resource. So let's say, for instance, after I finished my roll, hypothetically, I ended up with these resources. So I end up with these resources here. And I can use these resources to build something, but they're also my currency to actually build, to place things. So if I want to take this building here in the level 1 area, I need to pay 1 resource of any of my choice. So I'm going to decide, since I need to put concrete here to build stuff, I'm going to decide to spend 1 wood. So I spent the 1 wood and I get this tile. And when I take this tile, I can put it wherever I want. Adjacent to me, I'm the purple player here. So I can put it here if I wanted to. I can put it here. If I put it here in this spot specifically, I must pay 2 resources, but it's going to give me 3 victory points if it's the correct building. This one's not, so I'm not going to do it. This is a industry building. If that zooms in, there we go. Or focuses. This is a industry building, not the correct type of building, so I'm not going to get the point trigger if I do that, so I'm not going to do that. But let's say I want to put it over here. I can do that. For every space that's further away, I have to pay 1 resource. So in this case, this will be free. And this is 1, 2. So I have to pay 2 extra resources. So I'm going to pay these 2 glass here. Actually, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to pay just 1 glass. And then once that's done, I put my little piece here to show that it's my building. And then, once again, I'm trying not to explain the game, but like I said, these mechanics are just so cool that I just ended up explaining the game. And then I take these 3 These 3 concrete that I have, they need to go there. I put it on that spot. And then I have 1 more concrete left. I can cash in 2 of these resources, 2 of any resource to get 1 based on the player board down here, the commodity trade. I can cash in any 2 resources to get 1 glass or 1 concrete or 1 wood. If I wanted the blue resource, which is the steel, if I'm not mistaken, I need to trade in 3 resources to get that. But I'm doing it for concrete, so I'm trading in this glass and this wood to get myself a concrete. And then I finish the building. Once I finish the building, I take my little hat, as I call it, put on top of the building so it's completed. And then I get the rewards. In this case, it's going to be 1 victory point, and then it's also going to be a purple meeple. So I'm going to get my 1 victory point, like so. And then I get a purple meeple, which in this case is this nice, cool, translucent purple one, or pinkish one. That's kind of how that works. So like I said, the reason why I'm trying to talk about that is because there's a strategy to trying to choosing which tile to build, when to build things. Some buildings will score you points depending on the timing when you build them. So for instance, this building here, for me, this one in particular, scored me 2 points per house that was completed around it. So there's a certain point where I had to make a decision. Okay, do I want to finish this building now to trigger the scoring for it? Or do I want to wait until I build some more stuff around it, which these green ones here are houses, to try to get those points? In this case, in my particular gameplay, I decided to wait a little bit later, which made things a little bit harder for me because there was a situation, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a situation to where things almost didn't work out. Let's say it that way. Things ultimately worked out, thankfully. But that's kind of how it flows with that. And then on top of all that, you know, I'm talking about just mechanics. I haven't even talked about like what I like the most about the game and what I hate and all those other pros and cons. And then on top of that, there's a solo bot, which the solo bot is so competent in my opinion. I can see this becoming old over time, but for now, this is exactly what I want a bot to be in this kind of game. So the way the bot works is essentially you roll a die depending on what rounds you're in. So you keep track of your rounds. Essentially every 6 rounds or 5 rounds, the bot will start rolling more on their turns. So they'll roll once in the first 5 rounds, and on round 6 through 11, they'll roll twice. And then on round 12 until infinity, they'll roll 3 times. And what that roll means is that whenever they roll, that'll determine what region they're going to build in. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 based on the cards, based on where I place them. And it also determines what they'll do, what their bot logic is. So without going into too much detail on the bot logic itself, it's pretty straightforward. If there's a building to build, it's going to put resources to it. If there's no building there for them to build, they're going to choose one from the selection based on certain rules, and then place that, and then put some resources on it. Put some building materials on it to build it. And then once the bot finishes building a building, instead of getting the points like normal, so if you look on this tile here, for instance, this is Fred's for doors. So if you look on Fred's for doors, you'll notice that it's worth 9 points and it gives you a resource. The bot does not roll meeples, so they don't care about the resource. So instead, the way they score points is when the bot completes a building, they will get 1 point for every building material needed. So in this case, the bot would get 3 plus 6, because there's 9 resources that went to that building. They would get 9 points once they finish it. And the reason why that's significant is because if the bot is working on this gigantic building, let's say, let's go for this building. This right tower, if a player would normally complete it, they will normally get 24 points plus a purple and some special benefits later on. But if a bot completes this in a solo game, they will get 12 plus 16, so 28 points. They'll get 28 points, which is a massive amount of points. But the thing that I like about that is that it makes it a lot less bookkeeping, because I don't have to keep track of bot's powers. I don't have to keep track of, does the bot roll this now? I don't have to keep track of, okay, the board state looks like this, so the bot's going to do that. It's a very simple, straightforward system. It's very elegant, and it works. It just kind of flows. So like I said, I can't really sing the praises enough on how much I like the bot in this game. There's another game that had a really great bot, Star Wars Outer Rim. That had another bot that was very competent, but very straightforward to use, and those are the kind of bots that I like seeing. I could see this game specifically becoming a little bit old after a few playthroughs, because it's very easy to manipulate the bot. Essentially, the bot makes a decision when it's placing its tiles, starting from the middle if it has nothing in that region, and then you as a player get to decide where it goes, and you really need to focus on manipulating the bot in that way to make sure that they don't run away with the points, because it can snowball with the bot scoring a ton of points just because they can place for free without restrictions like normal players would. But on the same token, that means that you have to be paying attention even on the bot's turn. Yes, there's dice rolls involved because you have to roll a d6, which the game does not come with, just your own d6. You have to roll a d6 to determine where the bot goes, but that bit of randomness, that bit of chaos makes sure that you're not planning out too far ahead, or that you don't have, you don't have too much information as far as knowing what the bot's going to do and being able to prevent it. So, okay, all that's good, all that's done. We are 15 minutes in and having talked about pros and cons. So pretty much everything I just said, basically a pro. Let's go ahead and go to the cons, since I spent a lot of time talking about great things that I like about the game. So the biggest con for this game to me is that I feel like there's a certain bit of filliness to it, because you roll meeples, and rolling meeples is fine, but sometimes it's like, you gotta roll the meeples, and then you also gotta set the buildings, and then you also gotta like count this and count that. And I've only played this game solo. I am not looking forward to playing this game with people. What I mean by that is that when you play with people, the game encourages you to have everybody roll simultaneously. The type of gamer that I am, I really want to make sure that I am crossing my T's, dotting my I's, and I really want my opponents and the people around the table, or my colleagues, whoever, to also do the same. Meaning that when somebody's rolling things and I'm not able to pay attention to what they're doing, it's not that I don't trust what they did was correct, but it's just that little sense of paranoia is like, okay, what if they like fudge the numbers? So what I mean by that is that, if everybody's around the table, somebody has 13 meeples, they have to roll 10 at a time, they roll their first 10, they get 3 things, and then they're doing that, and then they're doing all those other stuff, saying, hey, can you pass me 4 glass, 6 blue, and then 2 concrete? And I'm like, okay, prove it. But I can't, because I'm doing my own turn at the same exact time, plus my other opponents around me, and it's too much noise for me to pay attention. So that part sketches me out a little bit. It's a little bit more of a personal thing as far as how I am as a gamer. I guess I'm a little bit too accustomed to the turn-based scenario of everybody paying attention to what somebody's doing on their turn. I guess that's one of the things. One common complaint, in addition, or that's a little bit more specific to me, that complaint specifically. But one common complaint with this game is that the text and the abilities on the cards or on the tiles are very small. It's very hard to see across the table. And I can definitely see that being a problem when you're playing with people. When I'm playing solo, because I'm doing the bot's turn and my turn, I can kind of pay attention to see what's going on. But I can definitely see this being a lot more hectic, especially if everybody's kind of doing simultaneous rolls for resources, and then we're turn order, phase order. I'm doing this on my turn, and then the next person, I'm doing that on my turn. It's okay, what does that do? Okay, what does that do? All right, okay, you rolled this one. What does that do again? Okay, what is this building? Okay, how does this work? Okay, what is this? And like, there's going to be a lot of back and forth communication needed. Playing it solo is fun. I'm looking forward to playing it with people, but I can definitely see that being a bigger issue when playing with people. The issue of it being small. Even when I was doing my playthrough, I built a building way over there, and because of where I'm sitting out on the table, and because of how I have my setup, I can't really like get over there and see truly what's going on. So thankfully the building over there is not anything I need to read, but it's a little bit kind of frustrating, because what if it was one of those abilities that I need to read and know what it did? It'd be a little bit frustrating to kind of constantly ask for that. So that's one of those trails. I don't know how that could be truly fixed. I mean, the tiles, very consistent looking, very nice, very cool table presence. Overall, great thing to look at. I don't know how that would be fixed. Maybe make the text bigger, or if they made a giant version of this game, that could work too. Although I don't know if I want this game to be bigger, because it is kind of it's not a table hog, but it takes up a good bit of table. As a side note as well, for people who are watching this review, just know that this board does nicely line up. I have it modular. I'm taking advantage of the modularity of the board, so for the purpose of recording my playthrough. But normally the map area will be in the middle. So let me just move the stuff around here, since I'm already done with my playthrough. The bottom area down here would actually be over here to the side, like so, under the map. And that's where you kind of keep track of the player's points as you go around, and also as a reminder for the player, a player aid. And then these 2 tracks for level 1 and level 2 buildings will be on the sides, and they line up perfectly. So no worries, the board is not very weird like that. It's just I had it set up like that for the purposes of my playthrough. So this would be the level 2 and the level 1 buildings, and the tiles would go to the side. So it lines up pretty nice, and also packs away pretty nice. The box is not the biggest in the world. It does not fit on my box shelves, but it probably would fit on the Calyx shelf. I mean, this is what the box size looks like, so it's a pretty good size. And it packs away pretty nicely, but yeah, cool. All right, so that's kind of that. I kind of jumped around from cons to talking about the board. I guess just in case people saw the board as a possible con. It does take up a little bit of space though, like not a ton of space, but it does take up a little bit of space. You need a little bit of working room so you can like place your meeples and count your stuff and place all the other stuff. Also, if you do play this game, this is a tile game, not a tile drawing game, but I do use makeup bags. I would highly recommend this to everybody. This makes the game setting up and breaking down a lot easier. Don't have to go through and flip all the tiles face down and shuffle them and then make sure I don't accidentally see stuff. I throw them all into the correct bags and move on. I have 2 bags here, level 1 tiles, level 2 tiles. Anyway, enough of me plugging those. Yeah, so overall, this game definitely top of my list. Not the highest in my list as far as like, you know, this is the new replacement for Mage Knight type thing. Although to be fair, Mage Knight is not on my top list. It's just not, unfortunately, not yet. One day it might be, but I have not given that full chance. But it's definitely a little bit up on my list because I've been looking for some kind of city building game that was very compelling and very crunchy. There's a lot of strategy here. The bot is very challenging despite its randomness. It is very challenging as far as it kind of forcing me to keep optimizing my turns to make sure I'm getting the most points and not wasting time. So that's pretty nice. And then also the bot's draining resources too, because the game ends trigger when resources run out, and the bot's taking, you know, a massive amount of resources every time they go, so you really got to manage that. And depending on how lucky you get, maybe you'll be able to get some reprieve in the storm, but usually the bot's just kind of running and gunning, you know, especially when they get 3 turns in a row. It's like, stop it, stop building things, stop getting points. so yeah, so there's that. A lot of cool variety. I can definitely see this game being a very good family game too. I would say maybe 9 years old or older might be the age range to aim for. Like nothing younger than that, because I might be pushing it. Basically because there's a lot of math involved, and like there's some other concepts too. But depends on your kid. If you want to look at this as a family game. As a solo game, it works well for me. I can play solo. I can play with multiple people. I'm looking forward to playing it with playing a little bit more solo, to be honest. But people, sure. I have friends that might want to play this as well. I actually have a friend with 2 kids who actually might enjoy this game as well, so I might see if I can convince them, at least their family, to borrow it and play it. But yeah, so at any rate, I'm rambling a little bit here towards the end, so I was getting a little bit out of order. Overall, I like this game. The key points for my review on this, though, is that I love the mechanic. It's very interesting. It's very, like, you know, different, and I appreciate that a lot. I love the table presence this game has. I like the ability to finally like do some city building stuff and kind of play around with it and plan out this and do this. This game does reward some long-term planning. You don't have to be like the best at long-term planning to be successful, but some long-term planning goes a long way. And then also rolling those meeples. I mean, it's just going back to the mechanic. It's just such a weird thing. Such a like, okay, who would have thought this? But it works. It works. And then like collecting your resources, spending them, and you know, kind of managing your city and building yourself up. Like that's all fun. That's all fun. So overall, highly recommend this game. 10 out of 10 for me. Okay, maybe not 10 out of 10. If I had to give an actual rating, I'd probably rate it like an 8 out of 10. Solid 8 out of 10 for sure. Because it does fill that city building role for me. City building niche that I was looking for. That unfortunately Neom, which I have, does not quite fill. And I am not a fan of Suburbia, so my choices were kind of limited to begin with. Although I found a few other city building games I'm going to be looking at in the future. But that's a future me problem. So be on the lookout for my channel to see those videos in the hopefully near future. But otherwise, let me know what you all think in the comments about this game. Let me know if you have any other city building games that you think might be able to kind of supplant the spot or take the spot of this game in my potential future collection. Or in your collection. If you have this game, what do you like about it, what do you not like about it? At any rate, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you all whenever.